I was called to the grocery store around the corner by the owner. He said, "Ollie, thank you for coming. Someone broke in last night, broke through one of the doors, and they stole all the eggs. And we're at a loss." I said, okay. And have the police been by? He said, "Yeah, I mean, they took a report, but you can tell they're not going to investigate. They just filled out a police report for us so we can put an insurance claim. They're not going to try and find anybody. We want to figure out why somebody would do that. Or at least who. Anyway, we'd like to hire you to investigate the case." I said, "Okay, sure, yeah, no problem." So Ollie went in and looked around. It was early in the morning, I should say. It was about 8 a.m. The plan was they were going to get Ollie in there and then clean up and try and open up for the day anyway. So Ollie started off by looking at the door and doing fingerprints, stuff like that. And he did find some fingerprints on there. So he'd figure he would take those later and try and run them through the FBI database. Other than that, though, there wasn't really much in the way of clues. It looked pretty straightforward. You know, there was broken glass from the glass door that was broken. And there was some crunched up broken glass sort of tracked through the store. But to the extent there was a path, you know, there was, nothing else was messed with. They'd come, they'd taken all the eggs, they'd gone into the back, taken some other eggs from there, gotten just every egg out of the whole store, and then they'd left, seemingly by that same door, the broken door. And unfortunately, there weren't security cameras, so that wasn't any help. So Ollie said, "All right, well, there's not a whole lot to work with here, you know. Gotta figure out why somebody would want that many eggs. I think that's the question." I said, "Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, that's a lot of eggs." I said, "Yeah, I think that's a good point. How many eggs were there?" I said, "Well, I can get you a full number, but, you know, there would have been 30 dozen eggs on the shelf, and then another 50 dozen eggs. I'm back in the back room. We were going to get some more, and it's lucky in some respects, we're going to get some more eggs later today. I mean, they got a lot of eggs, you know, so that's 80 dozen eggs. But we are going to get some more. So I'm more worried about replacing the door than replacing the eggs." I said, "Yeah, that makes sense. But I still want to know who did it and why. Because I don't want it to happen again." I said, "Yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right." What? I'm having trouble understanding you, honey. Can you try again? There's like an indoor, a door you go in, and like an entrance door and an exit door. They had broken the entrance door. So the exit door was still untouched. So I looked around a little bit, one more time to look for any other clues, but didn't find any. So I said, "All right, I'm going to send these fingerprints over to my contacts at the FBI, and be back in touch later when we have some more information." I said, "Okay, great." So I called up his FBI friend and sent him the fingerprints. I said, "Yeah, it's kind of a busy day today, so it's going to be a couple hours before I can get back to you. But yeah, I'll let you know as soon as I know." So in the meantime, I decided to just take a walk around. And he was walking around, just you know, getting some exercise. For about 20 minutes or so, when he heard this noise, this... That's strange, I thought. creepy noise, I thought. It sounded like it was coming from around the corner of the street he was on now, and then he heard screams. People ran by, away from the noise. It was around the corner, I guess, whatever it was. Ollie carefully looked around the corner, and there he saw what could only basically be, he thought, a zombie. It looked kind of like a person, but its skin was all gray and weird. Its clothes were dirty and ill-fitting. And its head was sort of tilting off to one side, and its face was all messed up looking. And it had its arms up, and it was walking in like an awkward, stilted way. And it was making that groaning noise. It had eyes, and the eyes were open, but it almost was like the eyes weren't looking at anything. I figured he was probably faster than whatever it was, this zombie-looking creature. So he decided to take the risk. He walked up toward it, put himself where kind of the eyes seemed to be looking, and said, "Hello? Are you okay, sir?" And the creature tilted its head up a little bit, as if looking at Ollie, and paused. And it said, "Rah," and it turned toward Ollie and started ambling a little faster, with intention, but still very slow. So Ollie just kept his distance. He said, "Look, I don't think you're going to catch me. If you need help, I can try and get you some help. You look like something's wrong." And the thing said, just kept on coming toward him. Now, Ollie realized that he had an awkward situation, because he was clearly much faster than whatever this thing was, this zombie-like creature. So he could get away whenever he wanted to, but, Ollie's the kind of a guy that tends to take, not kind of an octopus, that tends to take responsibility. He didn't want to just run away and leave this zombie thing terrorizing the neighborhood. But he also didn't want to slowly lead the zombie around all day. So he was just kind of backing up, keeping the zombie looking at him, the thought that that means it's not terrorizing anybody else. But he realized he needed to come up with a plan, something to deal with this situation. Thought and thought and thought, and he decided probably the thing to do was to call the police. We called a detective that he knew. I said, "Hey, Marcia." I said, "Hey, Ollie, how's it going?" I said, "Good, except that I'm kind of being chased by a zombie, like a very slow zombie." Marcia said, "Okay, Ollie, I don't really have time for jokes right now. Kind of busy." I said, No, I'm serious. Here, listen." He held the phone up, and the thing said, She said, "Okay, well, Ollie, if it was anybody else, I think this is a prank call, but you get in some strange situations. Well, what's your location?" So I told her where she was. I said, "All right, I'll get a squad car to come out there and help, and if I can get away from the desk, I'll come out and see what I can do." What are you hoping the officers will do?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't know what to do about a zombie. I've never met a zombie before. You need to stop it from eating people's brains, I suppose, but hasn't actually committed any crimes. Of course, I'm not even sure if it's human." All right. Well, we'll see what the officers can figure out, and then we'll work from there. So a few minutes later, a squad car pulled up to where Ollie was. It sort of followed, and they parked, and then the officers got out and talked to Ollie. I said, "Hey, you're Ollie, right?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Hey, good to meet you. I've heard a lot about you. So, you've got some sort of stalker here." I said, "Yeah, it's like a zombie." And at that, the zombie said, "Rah." "Okay, and is it hurting you, or is it, I don't know, quite know." I said, "Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, it's chasing me very, very slowly, but it's not like it's attacked me or anything. And I don't think it attacked anybody else. I mean, it scared some people. Some people ran away from it. That's how I noticed it. But And the police officer said, yeah, it looks like it's leaking a little bit of something. I said, oh, you're right. And this one, all I noticed that there was a little bit of some kind of thick liquid oozing out of one of the feet, kind of leaving a little bit of a trail. Not a lot, but a little bit. I said, I didn't notice that before. But yeah, you're right. It is leaking some kind of yellowish goo. It said. As they were watching it, the officer said, I guess, it seems more like a mental health response kind of a thing than a police situation until it attacks somebody or whatever. I can stay and monitor the situation. Let me try to talk to it. I said, Sir, you're scaring people. Do you need help? And the zombie sort of turned toward the officer and said, "Rawr, rawr." I said, okay, didn't understand that, sir. But your conduct is maybe making people concerned that you might attack them. I'm getting concerned that you might be on some sort of drugs or alcohol at a level that's dangerous. So, is there somewhere we can help you get home to? And the thing said, "Rrrr." The officer went closer. I said, sir, I'm gonna touch you on your shoulder. And reached over to the shoulder. I said, sir, do you need help? At that, the zombie reached over and opened its mouth like it was gonna bite the officer. The officer pulled his hand back. Said, hey, no. I'm not doing that. And that was when the officer noticed something. There was sort of a creaking noise when the zombie turned its head. But then the officer noticed a big chunk of that skin-like material on the top of the zombie's head was missing, and it was shiny. Ollie, come here, take a look at this. Climb up on my shoulder and take a look at the top of this thing's head. They looked at it, and it was metal. I said, yeah. And look at where the skin, in quotation marks, has come apart around there. It's sewn on. I said, yeah. Hold on a second, I have an idea. I reached into his bag, and he had a magnet with him. He said, I just happen to have this. But I'll toss the magnet gently at the zombie's head. And it went clink and stuck right to the zombie's forehead. And the zombie went, "Argh!" I started pawing at the magnet. I said, this is no zombie. It's a robot. Let me take a... Not sure what that was. And all I noticed there and the ankle, where it was dripping the yellow liquid, there was a little screw. Actually kind of a big screw. And that's where the yellow liquid is coming out. I said, I got an idea. If you can keep his attention on you, I'm going to try and unplug that plug. See if draining out that yellow stuff stops it. So the officer kept talking to the zombie, and it seemed to work. The zombie seemed to forget that Ollie was there. Ollie walked around behind the zombie. And she said, whenever you're ready, I'm ready. So Ollie darted in, unscrewed the screw, and pulled it out. When he did that, the yellow stuff came flowing. I looked at it, touched it, smelled it. He said, hold on, it's egg. At that, the zombie turned and looked back at Ollie. Ollie scampered back as the zombie turned faster than it had turned before. And sort of started walking toward Ollie again. But now the yellow stuff, the egg goo, was flowing fast. And as it flew, the monster got slower until it stopped. And a few seconds after it stopped, the flow of the egg from the ankle stopped too. Ollie and the officer looked at each other, confused. And then, out of nowhere, this crazy-looking scientist lady, hair all frizzled, black marks under her fingernails, came running out of a nearby building. Said, "What have you done? What have you done? Oh, you, why did you do that? It wasn't hurting anything. Why did you, oh, it took so long to get all those eggs out." I said, "Ma'am?" I said, "Don't you ma'am me. You just wasted a bunch of eggs. A lot of my time. I don't know why you're bothering my poor robot." I said, "Your robot." I said, "Yes. I'm working on artificial intelligence. This robot is, well, it's autonomous, but it's not very intelligent. I needed the eggs. I needed a water-based fluid that was rich in protein to serve as an electrolyte and a gel and a lubricant for the joints. It really worked very well. It took me a long time. Last night I realized that eggs would be perfect." Ollie went over and whispered in the detective's ear. He said, "Last night, huh?" I said, "Yeah. What? Oh. I mean, I bought the eggs at an all-night grocery store." So I said, "Ma'am, I'm going to need to get your fingerprints, if that's all right." I said, I don't consent to the search." I said, "That's okay." Then I started dusting the robot for prints. Indeed, there were prints. Well, I took out the prints that he'd taken off at the grocery store, and they were an exact match. The scientist said, I needed a lot of eggs. I'm sorry. I can pay for the eggs." The officer said, "You're going to pay for the eggs. You can pay for the door, but that's not good enough. It's against the law to just break into somebody's storage because you want the eggs. Ma'am, you're under arrest." And that was the story of Ollie and the eggs and the zombies.